Welcome to The Conversation. My name is Shannon Taylor, and I am the host. Blacks and Jews in Conversation and Not-for-Profit, and we're here with our esteemed guest, Rabbi Bernard Rosenberg, and a greater scholar and expert on the subject of the Shoah and the events of the tragedy, the epochal tragedy of World War II, the proportions of which have never been reached in history, is represented by his wisdom and knowledge and experience. And I wouldn't envy gaining that knowledge, because it is enough to overpower a person. And with us as well, my dear friend, a maestro of another field who has reached out to this branch of knowledge, Maestro Victorio Corjan, world-renowned flamenco and choreographer, artist, director, scriptwriter, author, teacher extraordinaire, and his background with Spain and with the Spanish Republicans and the Gypsies naturally led into a feeling for humanity, and his experiences with the Anne Frank tragedy branched into my father's history, a person who grew up as an orphan with orphaned hidden sisters, with parents gassed at Auschwitz with his eldest sister, a fighter of 15 years in 4 armies, between the Polish Refugee Army, the French Resistance, the Allied armies, the Israel Independence War. Thank God I had no part to play in any of this. I'm simply here to bring you these two scholars of vintage experience and knowledge. And I simply want to begin with one story that I read in the Jewish press this week of Marcel Marceau, acknowledged to this day as the most famous pantomimist, spelled Marceau, for those of you who don't know how to spell French. Holocaust hero. And this was his cartouche, or his famous little card with his character Pip, which was a little tiny character over there, modeled after his hero, Charles Chaplin, who was Jewish and who did the only pre-war movie, which appeared during the war, against Hitler and depicting his rabid Jew hatred. And Marceau was in the same resistance as my father during the war, but he was in the North, and used and developed his pantomime innate skills to rescue Jewish children hidden from the Gestapo, whose only goal, as we have said here before, with various producers of all ethnicities, whose only goal, the French Gestapo, the Nazi Gestapo, to get kids, preferably under the age of 10, boys, girls, whatever, and torture them and kill them and wipe out a race. And they wiped out just with Barbie, Klaus Barbie, who my father was to fight, and who deported his parents and sister, 20,000 Jewish kids and 10,000 Catholic kids. Him alone, one guy, aged 28 at the time, the chief of police in Lyon, France, where you now have all of the present-day French Gestapo living, and all of the riots you see going on now in France. The legacy continues. And with that, I just want to say that Marceau lived to 2007 and was honored by the Raoul Wallenberg Foundation of my friend Baruch Tannenbaum, and Congressman Lantos, a Hungarian refugee who was saved by Wallenberg in Hungary. And that was the only decent thing that President Roosevelt did in saving Jews. A person who was very content to see all 6 million go. That's my opinion. Now, you can debate it. You can bring on whoever you want to debate it. But that's my opinion of President Roosevelt with regard to Jews, and of Sidney Zion, a dear departed friend. And Raoul Wallenberg was created by the War Refugee Board, and Ben Hecht, may he rest in peace, and Rav Kook. And Marcel Marceau was alone with people like Varian Fry, honored in France for their solitary efforts at rescuing Jews, as was my father with his unit of 75 survivors in the South and another 100 in the North. With that, I'm going to turn to our distinguished guest, Rabbi Bernard Rosenberg, to give you his biography in conjunction with our guest, Victoria Gorjan, and continue the subject.
Shannon, thank you so much for giving me the honor of being on your program. We go back a long way. For those of you who know who I am, I'm a well-known activist, and I'm here to give a message to your audience. Wake up. The Holocaust is around the corner. If Iran gets the nuclear bomb and attacks Israel, and Israel retaliates, because of all the radioactivity, I can assure you, there will be another Shoah, another Holocaust, with 6 million Jews probably dying. People don't like the word Holocaust being used. They think it only belongs to the past. It's not true. I lost my grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, and 2 siblings. I've dedicated my life to teaching of Holocaust. But most important at this point is to have the memory of the Holocaust continue. We are living in the era of 1933, the time when Hitler became chancellor. Anti-Semitism is growing here in America and certainly throughout the world, especially in Europe. It's interesting. Just the other day, we had the big debate about the Confederate flag, whether it should be on or off. But no one debates whether swastikas should be legal or illegal and what the penalty should be. They always say, well, the swastika was done by a teenager. Swastika reminds us of what was done thousands of years ago by the people from India. Let me tell you something. Swastikas are put there by people who hate Jews, neo-Nazis, skinheads, anti-Semites galore. My message to you, as we will talk a little bit more today, remember what I have said to you. Anti-Semitism is alive and well.
Victorio, give us your background.
Well, listening to the rabbi, I feel like my background's really relevant.
Nice to our audience still will benefit.
To be honest, his point is very important, because I consider any hatred, it affects all people, not just Jews. It's like a plague. And it shouldn't just conclude Jews. It includes people who have suffered, like the Puerto Ricans, the Mexicans, and the Irish went through a hellish time in the early time of the century. And of course the Jews are perennially been suffering throughout centuries, you know that. So I feel about the Iran thing, the only problem we have with Iran is that we have done such terrible things to that country. We put in a despot because the oil there by the British was taken over because they felt they were not getting a fair share. So there's a lot of hatred toward the United States with good reason. We did terrible things there. And we did the same thing in Chile. We murdered Allende, who was a wonderful human being, because of the big corporations. And I regret to say that, I might be going off the subject, this country has lost a lot of the democratic principles this country was based upon. It's run now by corporations, and the fact that the gun lobby is still as powerful after all these murders, the tobacco industry is there, the pharmaceutical industry, and the worst of all, Monsanto.
I agree with you on Monsanto and its poisonous seeds, killing off all of Africa and making sure that nothing will grow and people will starve 100%. It's my opinion. Again, not of our organization. I agree with you, but you are worldwide. You've traveled the world to come to these conclusions. Tell our audience what you've done.
Well, I'm mostly obsessed with your father, because your father is a representative of a part of history which I made in my speech at the synagogue for him when we did our interview with your father. We did 2 in the synagogue. That he represents a part of history that should never be forgotten, and he should go from generation to generation as a symbol of heroism, compassion, and courage, because he risked his life to save so many people, and I think not just Jews. And I think at the age of 93, when I meet him and I see him, it fascinates me that a man who's lost his family in Auschwitz, being gassed, and all his relatives, he still maintains his extraordinary belief in life. And he has this tremendous joy. And I always look at him as a young man.
Do you agree with that? That the person should remain with a tremendous love of joy in life, no matter what misery you go through on a daily basis, no matter how life hits you on the head and you suffer, and every day everything rotten happens to you, you should still go through with a joy in life, Rabbi?
I think it depends on the person. I'm a great believer in genetic transference. A lot of us second generation were called 2Gs. We have the depression gene, which was given to us by our parents. And I really do believe that it does exist. But I just want to share with you, as you know, Greece is declaring bankruptcy. And who is being blamed? The Jews.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yes.
Neither did I.
The Jews are being blamed right now in all the newspapers for what is happening in the bankruptcy. So while I agree that other people have suffered, and while I agree we should try to help others, let me ask this question. When Jews are in trouble, who comes to save them? Who comes to save them?
Not even other Jews.
Not even other Jews. And you were right about Roosevelt. Nobody cared. 6 million Jews perished in 1943. Everybody knew what was going on already in Europe. They could have bombed the lines to Auschwitz. They didn't. They didn't give a damn about 6 million Jews. And I was born in a DP camp and a displaced persons camp. My father was in Auschwitz. My mother was in many concentration camps. And when they were liberated, Patton openly said, "Do not let these people out on the world. They are all crazy. They will bring nothing but insanity to the rest of the world." When Eisenhower heard this, he called Patton into the office and told him a few things. And that's when they opened up the gates for the Germans to have to see what they did to the survivors. While I understand what you say about the rest of the world, my personal view is I care about saving Israel and saving the Jewish people. Because if I don't care, and if Jews don't care, I assure you no one else is going to care.
Well, what do you believe in terms of the depression gene? Because I was not only this way, always this way. I mean, I watched Maestro Kojan give the most evocative dances, and Spain has very, very evocative dances. Carmen is written by a Frenchman, and Seville is just, you just glide through one passionate move after another. But after a while, I don't even go to a concert anymore. After a while, all I do is visit hospitals and see sick and dwell on this war history being pummeled on us. This is the 70th anniversary. What special meaning is there to this 70th anniversary? Is it to bring out the depression in me or more people? And why is the 70th anniversary being greeted by a rebirth of Jew hatred instead of a rebirth of guilt?
Well, I don't think the 70th anniversary has anything to do with anything. But this is what I can promise you. 50 years from the time of the death of the last Holocaust survivor, the Shoah, the Holocaust, will be forgotten, and it will be nothing more than a date in history unless we do something about it. Now, I wrote a Holocaust Haggadah, and I wrote a Holocaust Siddur. Unless you put the memory of the Shoah into ritual, it will be forgotten. And I can tell you, there are plenty of Holocaust deniers. They're ready to go. They're revisionists. They're ready to rewrite all of history and to basically say the Holocaust never, ever happened. And just let me tell you very straight off, I was the chairman for Rabbis for Romney. I don't like the current president. I don't like his actions towards the state of Israel. And I'm very, very concerned that with the few years that he has left, God knows what the policy will be towards the state of Israel. With regard to Iran, I agree with you about what the United States did there, but that's irrelevant. The leaders in Iran have openly said that they want Israel destroyed. End of the story.
I have a point here, Shannon, excuse me, and I don't debate the rabbi. I think it's hubris on the part of Israel, and I'm a Jew, to think that they can have a bomb and no one else can. And I understand their viewpoint, but it's such a sense of hubris to think that only we can have it, but you can't. And it's an absurdity. Actually, nobody should have the bomb. So it's a very difficult subject.
But Israel was the nation attacked. Israel never attacked any nation. Israel was attacked when my father was there as a survivor from ashes with 600,000 other survivors from ashes, reclaiming his birthright in a country that was not Arab, in a country that was not any other Arab nation. There was a British mandate for a Jewish state, and 7 Arab nations and the Palestinian so-called Arabs came there and attacked them.
Yeah, but here's the difference, Shannon.
And the bomb is there to prevent it from happening again.
Here's
And
the
Israel
difference.
never said it would ever use that bomb for offensive purposes.
Jews believe in life. We will do anything we can to bring back a soldier. We will trade 3,000 Palestinians for 1 Israeli soldier.
In my opinion, insanity.
But we do that because we
They are insane.
believe in life. These people, ISIS, Iran, all the enemies of Israel, they believe in having virgins waiting for them in a different world. They believe in martyrdom, and they don't care how many people they kill. So that's the difference. They get the bomb, they're going to use it. Israel doesn't want to use it. It will only use it if it has to, and then there's the Holocaust again.
And Israel hasn't used it despite how many wars being brought against it, how much need to have used it, how much justification to have used it. We used 2 bombs in World War II and we didn't have to use either one. We already had defeated Japan. Russia already invaded Japan and Sakhalin, and Japan declared the war lost at that point. We had annihilated Japan's capability of committing war, and we used not one, but we used the second bomb on Nagasaki when they didn't even study the effects of the bomb on Hiroshima. So who are we to talk about using any kind of bombs at any time? And yet we stop Israel from even contemplating defense. And Israel, of course, wouldn't use the bomb even under those circumstances. I never consider Israel using the bomb. I don't know why they spent the money building it. Israel would never use it, and no matter what, Israel surrenders 3,000 of the worst terrorists for 1 soldier in 1 week. They have already lost 3,000 more civilians from the people that they let go. What was the point of this? Insanity. And that's how we lost 6 million Jews in the first place, because we didn't stand up and fight and flee Europe. And we wouldn't have never come to that point. Even Eichmann was ready to make isn't it true that Eichmann was ready to make a deal with the Zionists in Israel to release religious Jews from Hungary, but Israel said, we're not making a deal with Eichmann because of America or other reasons. And isn't it true there was a Fugel plan in Japan ready to receive 1 million or more Jews from Europe that Hitler was ready to release to Japan, but Stephen Wise, the titular self-proclaimed head of Jews in America, said, we're not going to help Japan. Isn't it true the Republican senators were ready to send Jews to Alaska, but the same Stephen Wise and Frankfurter, Brandeis, Cardozo, and all the other self-proclaimed Jews said we're not going to create a Jewish state in America? Isn't it true that we ourselves did nothing to help the Jews leave Europe?
Rabbi Stephen Wise, who everybody considers a great hero together with Roosevelt, is the one responsible for making sure that the message never got to Roosevelt. 300 Orthodox rabbis came to Washington to plead with the president. Stephen Wise made sure that Roosevelt didn't know about it, never heard from them, and was not involved with it. During that time, there were only a few mass demonstrations by Jews here in the United States of America. And 50% of the United States of America at that time was anti-Semitic. And let me tell you something else. The Jews, when the Holocaust survivors came back, told them, whatever you do, don't talk about the Holocaust. They'll think you're crazy. They're the ones who told them not to talk about the Holocaust. You see? So where were even our own people to help our fellow Jews? The answer is very simple. The Holocaust survivors ended up helping themselves. My father, who couldn't speak English, who had $13 from Hayes, developed a business and did very well from himself. Both my parents could barely speak English. I spoke Yiddish, that was my first language, but no one helped them. And my parents never asked for anything for free. They didn't ask for food stamps. They had the energy and the conviction to make a life for themselves and for their only child.
Did you hear the story that Bugsy Siegel, Meyer Lansky, were ready to kill Hitler and Mussolini, and could have done it with Luciano's connections especially, and were talked out of doing it by the Jewish hierarchy at the time, headed by Stephen Wise?
All I can tell you is there was a time when Hitler, they tried killing him many, many times. And the famous one is, of course, where they explode the bomb underneath the table, and he still comes out, and his left hand is already shaking. He had Parkinson's. But the bottom line is, by 1944, basically the Allies felt it's better to have Hitler remain in office because he has gone so insane. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's causing more harm than good. Better keep him in office than someone else.
Yeah, but I'm talking about in the early 30s. When we had the Murder Incorporated in a series on TV on AMC, where we had Jews, tough Jews, as Rich Cohen wrote, tough Jews, who said, we can take these guys out, they should be taken out, that they came and they took out a lot of Nazis in this country, and they were ready to do it. But the Jewish establishment said, no, it's not good for business, it's not good for image, and these weren't the Jews of the ordinary street. These were the same Jews who wouldn't let them into the country and kept it from Roosevelt. That's the history that I discovered. And so we're always at our other throats. Let me turn to Victorio. Spain went through a terrible civil war, which history you're familiar with. That, to my mind, was the testing ground, where Hitler armed Franco, and America did nothing to prevent Franco's victory. And Stalin was begging America and England, you got to stop Hitler. And America and England didn't want to. They liked Hitler at that time. And they went to the Olympics in '36. And the result was the Spanish Republicans who lost found refuge in France at the Camp Rivesaltes, Camp Joffre. And that camp later became the concentration camp Rivesaltes, that deported those Spanish Republicans and gypsies to Auschwitz before they then deported the Jews, including my father's family.
And your
right?
parents were there, yeah. That's true.
Now,
Very true.
had history been different, and had America acted to prevent Franco from taking Spain and serving as Hitler's success story, would Hitler have come to power in Germany, and would that concentration camp system have been set on the model of
It's a
Rivesaltes?
moot question, but there is one thing that really disturbs me. And Winston Churchill said absolute truism, I think, of the United States. He said, the United States will always do the right thing when everything else fails. They take the long way, because even then, not only did they not help the Republicans, they threatened to put any American, and the fighters, and nobody hardly knows about the American Abraham Lincoln Brigade. I studied it, and I was fascinated that 3,000 Americans volunteered to go to Spain to fight for the Spanish Republic, because they knew if they didn't beat them there, that the fascism would spread, which it did. And when they lost, it was one of the most tragic things. These were the greatest Americans of all time. Every other war we have fought, since Korea to Afghanistan and Iraq, have been a waste of lives, with a dreadful president, President Bush, one of the worst we've ever had, who sleeps well at night, he claims, having put so many people to death with his madness.
Who was the author
I'm getting
that
a little
was
bit
in
off
the
the subject.
Spanish-American War?
Who was to be?
Who was the famous author in the Spanish?
Well, there's many.
the
Was
Civil
Ernest
War?
Hemingway?
Ernest Hemingway.
But I wanted to finish the one very
What
important
books
point.
did he write about it?
I think it was called A Farewell to Arms.
Farewell.
Yeah. But I want to get back to that one subject. We, according to my research, actually supplied Franco with oil. And some of that oil may have been used by the Germans to bomb Guernica. And they bombed Guernica, this wonderful little province, during the exact time they knew the marketplace was in full going, at 3 o'clock. In Spain, that's a kind of an old-fashioned culture thing where people go to the market during a certain period of the day. And so they waited till the market was filled with people, and then they came with their Messerschmitts and their bombers and destroyed the whole marketplace and, of course, most of Guernica. And, of course, that's when Picasso completely turned against Franco and made that famous painting of his, Guernica. So we actually helped Franco win that war by supplying oil. So I'm always saying that many times. In Vietnam, the same thing. We fought on the South Korean side, were more corrupt, and I admired Ho Chi Minh of the North. And the same thing in Afghanistan. We're messing with Afghanistan and made it worse than it was before, and Iraq was worse. The worst thing of all, I'm getting a little off the subject, it's not that I'm anti-America, I'm anti-government. Because I find, and I think Rabbi Rosenberg, you agree with me, it's not these countries that are bad. The people in all these countries, Iran, Russia, they're all good people. It's just the politics and the people who run the countries who are evil. If any country you go to, you'll enjoy the company of Cubans, or Russians. They all are human beings with a lot of passion.
Have you been to Cuba?
That's my next goal, to go there. It's an extraordinary country. When we messed up there, too, for the wrong reasons. And even your father, he couldn't even get into this country because they thought he may be a communist.
He was born in Poland. He
was born in
fled Poland
and
at
he
the age
fought
of
in the
2.
American Army. That's the irony. He fought in the American Army. I hope I'm getting that off the subject, because I think the most important subject is your father, which we haven't brought up at all.
Well, my father is symbolic of all this.
Rabbi Rosenberg, the Holocaust will never be forgotten. My belief is people like your father, when he gets on the stage and we introduce him again in the theater or a synagogue or whatever we have to do in colleges, and he talks about his life, we keep the Holocaust alive. And there are other people out there who still exist from that time who should be making speeches. And on top of that, Germany, who destroyed so many Jews, has a law now, which I'm sure you know about. If anyone claims the Holocaust didn't exist, they go to jail. That's their conscience talking.
How does a person reach you?
I'm at Chaim Dove at AOL.com.
Spell that for
ChaimDov at AOL.com. I have one message to our listening audience, especially the young people. If you're from Yeshiva University, if you're from Touro, this message is for you. You have to be the new generation to speak out against anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism exists on college campuses and is rampant. Be ready for the fight. Be ready for the next Holocaust.
I disagree with that. That's too severe in my opinion. I think there are too many rational people out there who fight against such madness and hatred.
Well, how does one reach you?
Excuse me?
How does one reach you?
Well, I'm not going to save the world.
Well, do you have a website?
Yes, but my website mostly consists of my dance career. My film scripts, of course, my dream is my story about the Spanish Civil War and the American freedom fighters. My big dream is to see that made into a film.
And that is?
That is the story of the struggle in Guernica and how Spain suffered during the Civil War. But to reach me?
Yes.
Well, I think the people who are watching this program are not interested in dance. I think they're interested in politics.
Well, I want to thank you all from Blacks and Jews in Conversation. I wish my father, Michael Taylor, very well from us and to our next program and to our regular appearance by our resident experts here. Rabbi Rosenberg and Tori Gojan, thank you so very much. We might as well continue talking until they come.
That silence, by the way, was that because we were still on?
Well, no, we're off.
We're off now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we.
You know the sad thing about this, Shannon?
No, but we have.
We
a
hardly
tape.
even breached what we had to say.
But we have a tape, so let's.
We have something.
Let's make use of the tape. I'm curious as to the depressive gene.
Yes. There are many studies, primarily coming out of AMCHA, which is the Israeli Psychological Association. Some people say it's baloney, and some people say it's for real. I think it's for real.
What does it do?
It basically causes you to see life in a more depressed way. And many second-generation Holocaust kids have problems, psychological problems.
Genetically.
Psychologically.
Yeah.
But genetically, psychologically?
Psychologically.
I don't think genetics has anything to do with it. I think unconsciously the
There's
parents.
a stress gene.
I don't believe
Yeah, that's
that.
what I mean.
Yeah.
I think that
a stress
unconsciously
gene.
the parents passed on to the parents what they went through and suffered and gave them a sense of guilt.
But the more that it's talked about, the more that the subject is discussed, the more it's watched on TV, the more movies you see, the more violence that you see, the more injustice about what happened in that period of history,
Right.
especially in terms of a personal account. Is that going to affect this stress?
Well, I grew up seeing my father's number on his arm. I grew up seeing my mother cry every 5 seconds. I grew up seeing my father lose his temper every 5 minutes. That's how I grew up.
Is that going to affect you later in life more?
It has.
And that's not genetic. That's just pure
It has.
suffering.
But
the parents.
there's not a day that I don't think of my parents. Not a day.
If I continue to watch the films with my father,
Yes.
if I continue to present with my father, if I continue to do research
Yes.
on the subject, if I continue to join other panels, if I continue to read about it and see the plethora of movies and books and so on and so forth on this subject, related subjects, whether they're spoofs or reality or revisions or new facts, am I doing myself harm?
I don't think you're doing yourself harm. I taught Holocaust is seen through film as a subject for 12 years. I wake up in the middle of the night screaming and yelling that I'm in a gas chamber. Okay?
Well, I do it while I'm awake, but I don't scream I'm in a gas chamber. I mean, I do not have much patience
Right.
anymore.
And then there's another theory, which I buy into. It's a religious theory. It's called Gilgul, that the souls of the dead children, 1.5 million dead children, came back into the souls of many of the children of the Holocaust survivors.
It's interesting.
It's called Gilgul. You can buy it or not buy it. I buy it.
Well, then, by the souls of my family
Right.
that were killed,
Are
tortured,
are within you.
are within me, and their
That's
pain,
right.
their suffering, their injustice is within me.
That's right.
And if I'm told why am I so agitated all the time, and why, and I've already been diagnosed from my mother's side, which is not a Holocaust side, as subject to agitation and subject to nervousness and subject to tension on my mother's side,
Right.
then I'm now doubly jinxed with this on my father's side.
There are some people who say this is total nonsense.
No, but you subscribe. You're a
I
scholar.
do.
You subscribe.
Well, it has nothing to do with scholarship. It has to do with how I live.
Shannon, another note.
It has to do with my
That's really
feelings, personal feelings.
My goal, that's really the thing I really want to do, is to get Michael back on stage and have him speak and have him do the interviews I've always did and make my opening speech and my closing speech. That's the best way to have people have a personal relationship with the Holocaust and up front, seeing someone who actually lived through it.
But that's why I'm exploring this.
Yeah, but here's the problem. They're all going to be dead soon.
Well, his father is very much alive. And we're gonna keep
My
him alive.
father's been dead 32 years.
Yeah, but there's,
My mother's been dead 22 years.
but there's still people out there who are.
Most of the people that are out there, their brains are half gone. The information that they're giving out is wrong, and that's why the revisionists are going to have a field day. A lot of the books and movies that have come out, we've discovered that things are absolutely nonsense, and the revisionists are writing this all down. You remember the famous one recently where the guy said his wife was throwing apples into Auschwitz over the wire?
Yes.
It's a bunch of nonsense. Never happened. And then I read a lot of these memoirs, and they talk about how they were 6 years old and 7 years bullshit. Excuse me. Okay, if you were 14 years old, unless you were 8 and looked 14, you were dead. You were immediately killed. No 4-year-old was running around in Auschwitz. It didn't happen. But they write all this stuff. You see, so the revisionists are going to have a field day.
At the same time, we have films that with Eisenhower looking into Dachau and all those
Right.
places. Those films are absolute proof that people were murdered in
Yeah.
a Holocaust period. You
So,
can't deny
so they'll
that.
tell you there's 100,000 that were killed.
Say that again?
They'll tell you there's 100,000 killed. Here's your proof.
No,
Here's your
I've
film.
seen films where there were so many bodies.
Yeah, it wasn't 6 million.
If you see that, you pretty much have the
That's what
feeling
the revisionists
that more
do.
was going on. There's no way they can deny that.
That's what the revisionists do.
I cannot believe they can do that.
On Facebook the other day, because I'm on all the Holocaust Facebooks, which I'm going to put this on. Some guy, somehow or another, he's an expert on hacking into different things, and he's saying, oh yeah, 100,000 died. It wasn't 6 million. It was 150,000. Okay, and eventually there's going to be enough of these jerks to believe it.
What do they gain by denying it?
They're anti-Semites.
Yeah, but what do they gain?
They
Shouldn't they be proud of it?
what? The 6 million were murdered.
Yeah, they want to do it again. Why don't they say we did it once? Yeah, let's finish the job.
But they do say, let's finish the job.
So so why deny it?
I think those people are exceptions to the rule. When you go by the vast mass of people in the world, most people have no malice toward Jews.
I think most people have malice towards Jews.
You could say the blacks are going through the same period. I mean, so many
I
blacks
don't
have been killed lately.
I don't care
Have you
about
heard
that.
any Jew being shot in the street?
Yes. A Chabad rabbi in
In New York
Florida.
City or one of these American countries?
Chabad rabbi in Florida was murdered
When?
about 2 months ago.
Yeah, they didn't even call it a hate crime.
They didn't even call it a hate crime.
Had no money, had nothing.
It was on
But
Shabbos.
that was one of those ISIS fanatics?
No,
No.
was a white guy. They're always
No.
white.
No.
They're always white. Yeah, I know they're always white. That's why I went with blacks
Well, I'm a
and
little more
Jews.
optimistic about the future.
Listen, I'm dealing with
And you're coming from a background far more
I have
tragic.
more baggage than you can possibly imagine. The only reason I'm sane is compared to other people, but, you know.
But I'm asking, the question I'm asking.
I ran a singles group. I told you this one?
No.
You'll love this one. So I had this real neat idea that people get divorced, you know. So why do they get divorced? They don't have things in common. Okay. So let's see. If I put 2 Holocaust survivors together, kids, they would have things in common, right? They're both nuts. They both have baggage. Yes? Good. They can talk to each other. That was the theory. Okay. So I start this group. I ran it for 4 years. So, and my wife used to go to these with me. And ended up, I had psychologists and psychiatrists and this and this and that and that. I came home believing that I was actually sane. These people are so nuts and have so much baggage. So there's not, almost once a week I get a email. I got one today. Rabbi, you're supposed to be renowned for helping the second generation. Everyone else I've spoken to can't help me. Can you talk to me? And I talk to everybody. So compared to them, I think I'm sane.
But based
that's
on
about it.
based on what you're saying, I should divorce myself from the whole subject right now.
Right.
And turn away the books and send my father to Victoria and go in a nice world cruise and forget about it all.
Some people have done that.
Because otherwise, I'm asking for trouble.
No, I think you have. This is a moral goal you have.
No, but I think I'm already stressed out.
I don't
What
think
does
you
your
were
gut tell
stressed
you?
out though when you.
My gut tells me I'm stressed out.
Yeah, but
Then,
you weren't stressed out by doing those productions. You were stressed out from your past.
I'm stressed out since my operations, and I'm stressed out since taking care of my father and my mother's death. I am stressed out.
Yes, that'll do it.
I am stressed. Look, Judith had injury after injury. I've been in nothing but hospitals for 2 years.
Right.
I have been unable to accept work again. I have had to sell my home, build a new home, rent a new home, move 3 times. All I have is my father clamoring for more and more and more of this. And Judith is not well, and we're good at this. And we go from place to place, and Karen is great at this, and she makes the venues available, and so I take advantage of the opportunities, but I'm getting more and more and more stressed.
Yeah.
And you're the first one who says that this has an effect.
Yes.
And people are asking me, why is it that you don't smile anymore? Why is it that you don't just enjoy the shows and the movies? I mean, everything is being offered to me to enjoy, and at the same time, I'm choosing this.
Well,
And
at
I'm
first
starting-
you told me something that was really shocked. You said you're stopping seeing art and going out, beautiful things.
It's a fraction of what I used to do.
That's the panacea to a lot of problems. It's just going and
But there's
enjoying
only
art.
time for one. Yeah, I mean, I took my father to see Gypsy before it closed,
Right.
and we had a great time.
So,
But you know, there's one Gypsy, and then he goes home and he watches 6 hours of this on TV. And I end up screaming my head off. I want the channel changed.
You want the Nazi station?
Yeah, the Nazi station.
So do I.
All day and night.
I watch it
Nazis,
day-
Nazis.
That's what I watch.
Your father's an exception to the rule because most people.
I watch it
don't
day
even-
and night.
You don't watch.
All night long.
The History Channel.
No, I'm talking about
I-
the Holocaust. He
Gary
watches
Gary is
Holocaust films.
200 pounds in
Why
this
would you
one.
watch
He's
that?
400 pounds.
I know every single episode. I can tell you every single move. Yeah.
The Nazis and the occult. The Nazis
right.
and the Templar
And
Rule.
I know
the
every
Nazis
one of
and the
them.
lost treasures. The
Yeah.
Nazis stole the art of France. They founded it in South America. They founded it in Madagascar. Then they went to South America again. Then they
I
founded
watch
cruise.
it. I watch it day and night.
What does that bring you
Oh,
to do that?
poor baby.
You know, that doesn't bring you solace.
I didn't say anything about being sane, right? I said, and compared to other people, maybe I'm not completely nuts.
Right.
I used to enjoy the Avengers. Now with the Avengers, there's a Nazi coming out of the Avengers. The Red
Well,
Skulls.
what would happen, Doctor?
I'm very seriously. I went into the rabbinical career having nothing to do with religion. Zero. I became Orthodox on my own at age 12 or so. Okay, and became Shomer Shabbos when I went to YU. Had nothing. When they asked me what type of rabbi do you want to be, I said I don't care. And I still don't care. Orthodox, conservative, reform. To me, it's all bullshit. I'm there for one reason: stop anti-Semitism. Stop it now. And I don't care where I have to go to do it. It's always been in me. So I don't have an answer. It's always been in me. And anyone who knows me, it's always been there.
Okay, I understand that. I accept that and I respect that. I looked at the other side of the German generation now, the children of the very Germans who tortured to death,
Right.
who go to the concentration camps seeking forgiveness for their ancestors. That to me is admirable, and it shows that we're all basically capable of being good human beings.
So I don't blame them.
You use the word blame.
I don't blame them. No, I don't blame that. I don't blame the grandchildren of Nazis.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes,
Yeah, I
of
don't
course
blame
we
them.
can't. That's true.
No.
But I admire the fact that they'll go that far, and that the Germany itself will put in jail anybody who says anything against the Holocaust.
Yeah, I don't blame them.
That's a great thing.
But because I.
My advice to you:
Yeah.
obviously, you are driven, like I am, so I understand the driving. But you need to go on a few cruises when your father's better, with your wife, and try to
Cruise
he
would be
can't
great.
enjoy
maneuver.
life. I know
He
that.
can't maneuver, and he's living with us.
I understand that.
And all he wants is this.
Is what?
Nazis and more Nazis,
Nazis
and more Nazis and more. What is?
Because he's obsessed now.
Listen, my father-in-law is 94. What does he watch?
Also all day.
All day. What does he watch?
Right.
He was a World War II.
All day. That's what he watches.
So I got him his own TV. I put it in his room. I got him a simple remote control.
That's what they-
I got him his commode in his room and in his bathroom. I gotta lock him in there, and I'm not gonna let him out.
You guys, don't rush. My guest isn't here yet, so.
Paul, say hello.
On the next show.
Thank you so
Paul,
much.
you remember Victorio? You met him once before.
Yes, we did.
Blinded by the light.
I'm Paul,
This
yeah.
was fascinating.
Yeah, my light.
I had to run. This was so interesting.
This is Professor Sutton from
Hi, Karen Fung.
Stern College.
Stern College, just around the corner. Yeah, thank you so
And
much.
this is Rabbi Reverson Rosenberg, experts on your favorite subject of the Holocaust.
What's that? Oh, really?
He interviewed my father tremendously.
That's great.
Got my
Kevin,
father
this
to
was
say things.
terrific. Rabbi, I'll be in touch with you.
Okay.
It's been a pleasure.
See the stuff that.
A privilege having you here.
Wonderful. And you are the most enduring curmudgeon that I've ever met.
Give my love to Leon.
Take care. I sure will. Okay, I'm sorry I have to run.
Okay, be well. God bless.
Tell Leon I'm
I-
ready for a nervous breakdown.
We'll have to talk about it.
When my